Good morning. Well, before we can get started with anything on the Uncle Dorkel skits, we have more work to do on them cosmetically, nothing major. But before we can even do that, I had to stop at Home Depot this morning to get some PVC pipe to make the backdrop that I need. The backdrop is needed because we have a very limited space to do anything. And I want a different background, so I want a kind of like a neutral background. And the backdrop I'm going to be building is only going to be able to be 5 foot wide, not 6 foot. 6 foot's too big, too long in the confined area that we're working in the house. It's fine for the front room, but if I want to do the skits in another small room, I'm not going to be able to do it. So we're going to get started on it now, and it's nothing fancy. I just took some measurements. Uncle Dorkel is almost 40 inches as he sits on the chair, whatever he's going to be sitting on, to the very tip of his head. He's close to 40 inches. The average chair we have in the house is between 18 and 20 inches high, depending on what chair we use, and the recliner is a little lower than that. So we're going to allow 40 and 20, that's 40, 50, 60 inches. So we're making this thing 5 feet wide. So if I want to do a skit out in the kitchen and I want to cover the background and have something different, the kitchen table is 5 foot long, so that should be more than enough, because most of the skits are done with me kind of like zoomed in. You don't see the lower part of Uncle Dorkel where he doesn't have any legs. So we're going to make this thing 6 foot tall. So I think we go 5 feet wide and 6 foot high. That way you got about a little over a foot where the fabric goes from the bottom to the feet, if you know what I mean. So rather than the chatter around here, we're going to start cutting. Now I got a good deal. These were on closeout for $6 and change. They're regular $14, $15 because they got a new model out. I was talking to one of the fellows that does the plumbing over there, and he says he has this one that works out really well. So I've been using hacksaws on these, and they're very messy, sloppy. There's not going to be any glue in these. Everything's going to be pushed together, but I might keep the top and the bottom. I might put it together with screws. I don't want to buy PVC cement and the cleaner and all that stuff. That's another $10 or $15 by the time I get through with that. Everything here that you see is about 25 bucks. So these are about $2.22 a piece. For 10 footers, you can't beat that. That stuff is cheap. And these are 46 cents a piece. So unfortunately, you can't come out. They don't make one, at least Home Depot doesn't carry them, with 4 on the side so that I can make feet coming out. There's going to be a 24-inch foot base on this thing. I scratched this out before I walked into Home Depot, and I had this down as 6 foot, but I went in and took measurements. It's only going to be 5 foot long, and it's going to be 6 foot tall. So the fabric will come down here and down to about here. It won't go all the way to the base because it doesn't have to, because that's going to be below. That's going to be where my feet will be if I'm in the picture. Most of the time I may not be in the picture. And 5 foot long, so it'll be 2.5 foot here on each side, and a piece coming down, a piece here, and these are pretty nice. I understand Harbor Freight has them, but by the time you pay the shipping and everything, you know, you're paying more in the end. Boy, these things pick up all kinds of dirt. Being as plastic and static charge. Beautiful. What nice clean cuts. drive these in, you know, this basically is going to be press fit. This will be one piece. When I store it, it'll be one piece, and I will put screws in this part. I'm just going to make sure it's always flat before I do that. And the total length of that will be a little over 5 feet because of the elbows. 64.5 inches, that's good enough. The actual fabric will only come to here anyways and be folded around and then clamped on in various places. I got those little clips that will hold the fabric in place. Okay, I'll show you here. Alright, I've got to put 2 little screws in there. Only need a screw just to keep it from turning. And they'll only be screwed on the top and the bottom. The verticals will not be screwed, they'll be pressed in. That way I can pull it all apart and just leave, store the whole thing away. Phillips screws here. Real tiny. Not easy to get these in there. Small stuff is not easy for me to work with. Okay, so we know that's not going to twist out. That'll be, like I say, permanent. Now you pretty well know how I'm going to do this. There's no use videotaping beyond this point. I got to just line up things and make sure that this is sitting straight. I'll do that off camera. So from here to here will be about 48 to 50 inches or so. Maybe 5 feet. Well, we got to get the spacing just right so that we can wrap the fabric from here to here and across. So if you can visualize this thing, this is going to be the feet area. So this will be sitting like this, of course. To hold it up, it'll be like bars coming out to hold it from flopping over. And of course, naturally, this will be like this, and then this top will be up here, and the fabric will spread across this, and there'll be a piece coming down the middle. Now, because they don't make a 4-way, leastwise I can't get one, we're going to make our own 4-way. We're going to take a piece of metal here. We're going to cut this piece of metal in half, and we're going to screw it in here and on the other side too. So we're going to make these into a 4-way, so that you got to have a support in the middle to go down to the base, and the same with this, because you can't expect a 5-foot span to be very rigid when you pull this fabric. So that's the way we're going to do it. Sometimes you have to make things, because you can't buy them, you make them. Alright, I just got back from the fabric store. They sell all kinds of fabric at $2.99 a yard, so I got 2 yards of 3 different kinds, and I brought them in the house. And the widest I could get, which is fine, is 59 inches to 60 inches. Just happens to be that that's the way they came out, and 6 foot. So I'm going to figure to make this top piece over here, the spacing between the top rod and the middle rod obviously has got to be less than 59 inches because you got to allow for the fold over and the clamp, which is fine because that'll work out just right. The whole stand will be 6 foot tall. That way you won't see anything in the background if we get the cameras angled right. And everything from the bottom rod down, it doesn't matter because you're not going to be seeing your feet anyway. So what I'm going to do now is take a measurement for the piece that I got to put between here and here to determine the width area, so it allows me to fold the fabric over. You want to be able to fold the fabric over the rod at least so they can get the clamp on. So we come out with a figure of 50 inches for the vertical rod to go from here to here. And the total height will be 51 inches or thereabouts, maybe a fraction of an inch one way or the other. So we cut 3 verticals 50 inches long. And take it out of this piece right here. That's a good quarter inch here. 50 inches. I don't know what it is with this stuff, but it picks up all kinds of crap with static electricity. Static cleaning. Static cleaning. Ooh, that's going to be quite large. Over here. Invention big enough. I always like to double check and triple check my reading. Alright, I shortened each one of them verticals to exactly 49 inches. It's quite big. So we should be able to get the fabric on without no problem. Alright, now we'll have to take some measurements here, but as I said before, we're going to have to make up a coupling here. We're going to have to fasten this to this. If I was able to get a 4-way here, I wouldn't have to do that. But anyways, we're going to do that, and then we make the coupling up to go into here, roughly down wherever it needs to be for a total height of 6 foot from here down to here. Now, the part that's going to hold us up from flopping over, we're going to improvise something at the bottom here. This is the bottom base. Okay, if you can picture that sitting like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got 3 1/4 inch, 22-inch length threaded rods that I didn't buy. They threw them out at work when I was working. I'm going to drill through here, probably in the union, but right through here like that. And there'll be one here, and one here. That should keep it from toppling over. There'll be almost a foot on each side to keep it from toppling over. And to stabilize it, I might get some more tubing, small amount of tubing, thin one, small diameter, and slide it over the top of this threaded rod and then put the nuts on to hold it in. Yeah, we just have to be careful when I drill this to make sure that I'm drilling straight so it's not at an angle here. Alright, what I did is I permanently screwed together the bottom section of this rig because I can store that the way it is. The bottom section is 19 inches from here to here. This is where there's going to be no fabric. The fabric will be from here on up. And the legs, the feet, keep it from toppling over, will be like this. There'll be 3 of these threaded rods in here. Now it's only 1/4 inch thick, but I happen to have them. They should be pretty strong. Of course, we're not using this outside, so we shouldn't have to worry about wind knocking it over. Just being that we're going to stand it up in various rooms in the house. Now the top part where the cloth goes, all this here that you see off to the side here standing up, that will be all taken apart. Just all I got to do is take these 3 poles out and store all this. Now, this shouldn't be too bad to store. Right now I want to make this union up here. And I'll use this piece of metal, I guess, as good as any. Alright, you can see what I did here, and I'm going to do the same to the other side with this piece here. This unionizes these 2 pieces together. It's a little sharp on the edges here, but you have to be careful of that. Could put tape on it, but it won't look too good. Alright, so the bottom section is made and all secured together. It stands up like this, and these pieces will go like this. Now, the question is, are these going to be strong enough to hold this thing without bending? That I don't know. There's going to be 3 of them. I'm going to hold this base up like that. Now, when I store the base, of course, these things are going to be sticking up in the air, but halfway. So I'll have to check the length of this. Now, the only way to do is to put them in and see how strong it is. I already drilled a 1/8 inch pilot hole. You know, you don't want these things to be cockeyed. You know, we try to get as straight as we can. Drilling the pilot hole makes it go in real quick here. As close as I can see. She's straight that way. Straight that way. Good. This is laying on its side, of course. So we've got about 10 inches. A little over 10 inches. Now, what I'm going to do, I think I might strengthen it up a little bit. We're going to go to Home Depot tomorrow, and I want to get some PVC that'll fit just snug on here. It'll dress it up, and in addition to dressing it up, it may stabilize it a little bit because I'll just put a washer here and a washer on the end of the PVC and put a nut on it and tighten it up, and that should stabilize it. And we got this business here. So, with 3 of them things in there, all the way down the line, we should be pretty good. Now I can put something on the ends to kind of keep it from flopping back and forth like that. Alright, we're just about ready to tighten this up. Hand tight for now. Check the length of each leg here. we're going to get some tubing to slide over this, and then I'll put probably a washer on the end, maybe big enough that it'll keep it. You only need like about 3/4 inch from the tip to the floor to keep this thing from moving too much. But I think this will be pretty strong. I mean, you know, if you push it over hard, it could bend it, but if I'm careful, it should be okay. Don't need to go too hard. If I measured correctly, that should be 5 feet from left to right and about the same on the height. "64 inches on the width, 52 inches on the height." I did not want that 6 foot wide. 5 feet is plenty. So if I'm in the middle of this thing sitting down, which is what I'll usually be doing if I am doing Uncle Dorkel, should be plenty. Should be very good. So Uncle Dorkel is just shy under 40 inches. The chair he'd be sitting on could be anywhere from 17 to 20 inches high. So that would make him 60 inches. At the very highest, he'd be 60 inches when he's sitting on the chair. His tip of his head would be, and you'd still have a good percentage of material above his head. So if we're careful with the camera and so forth, that should do it. Well, I think we're going to end it. The rest is basically just fixing up the legs and everything. It's something I've never built before. I just thought I'd put this on a project for you all to maybe, who knows, maybe you might want to build something like this. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we can get a skit of Uncle Dorkel going before Halloween. At least we want an introduction on the new Uncle Dorkel anyways, if nothing else. We'll see. We still got a little more cosmetic stuff to do on him and still have to get him a shirt. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned.